amazing people, welcome back to RX Memes. Today we are going to be jumping into r/ProRevenge, so I hope that there are some new stories here to give you that satisfaction of getting even. Also, Happy New Year. I hope that you all had some really good holidays, and we'll get right into today's video. Changing a big fat target on my back to my boss being escorted out by security. This happened a few years ago, but the story appears to be a good match for this sub. I was one of two commercial writer-producers working in the production department of a local television station. Our department was responsible for producing both the newscasts and commercials for clients who purchased airtime on our station. The department is high stress. I had to manage multiple deadlines and provide creatives for about a dozen ad campaigns every month. That being said, I always met my deadlines, and our sales department was always complimentary of my work, steering the more important clients my way. Unfortunately, managers in my department came and went with unsettling frequency. In the 9 years I was there, I had 6 different managers. Most often, the managers were passing through with their sights set on snagging upper-level management jobs in larger television markets. This meant their experience actually doing the work of television production was often minimal, so they had a tendency to not interfere with our work, so long as clients were happy and deadlines were met. Given the managers were so disengaged, I told our general sales manager about my idea for saving time and money in the department, and he suggested I apply for the production manager position the next time it opened up. So I did. I did not get the job. I was told I was too important maintaining good client relationships through my work as a producer. No big deal, I thought. I was happy as a producer. Unfortunately, the person they did hire for the position ended up being a monumental asshole for the first order. I'll call him Bob. The first thing Bob wanted to know was who in the department had applied for the position he now filled. I don't know what idiot in upper management thought it would be a good idea to tell him, but someone did. It soon became apparent that he wanted to find any excuse he could to fire me, because that was just the kind of insecure idiot he was. It began by him writing me about the time I was taking to complete commercial productions. Then he accused me of undercharging clients in my billing. He wanted me to wear a suit and tie, which he knew I hated. As the writing on the wall became clear, I began documenting every single interaction with him, taking notes about what was said and contradicting his accusations with the facts. All the while, he is managing to piss a whole lot of people off in our department, and morale really began to tank. Bob was petty, vain, and given to things like announcing how lavish and wonderful a vacation he was planning would be. He was going to Aruba, so he'd put up travel posters and printed out a ridiculous sign he taped to his office door that would say something like, "My island adventure begins in 2 weeks." All this served to remind us that he was the only one in our department who made enough money to take that kind of vacation. Eventually, an incident occurred where I'd missed a deadline through no fault of my own. The client wanted to change up the creatives at the last minute, and we had to bump the film shoot. Somehow, Bob got it in his head that I should have been a mind reader and anticipated the client's wishes before they were communicated. He calls me into his office and begins berating and threatening me. I had had enough. I'm the kind of person who will take a lot of patience and grace, but when I am finally pushed to my boiling point, I explode. I start yelling back, "You're a liar, and if you think I don't know how to handle this client, then fine. Let me see you do it, because I'm out of here." And I walked off the job. I'm so amped up by what just transpired after leaving the office, I walk all the way home, a distance of more than 6 miles. Just as I am nearing my house, my cell phone rings. It's Bob. Evidently, it just dawned on him that he would in fact have to produce the ad campaign himself because our other producer had the week off. He hemmed and hawed and finally blurted out something that was quite revealing. "If we lose this client, we'll both get fired, and I can't afford to lose another job." Really? So you've been fired from all your other jobs? What a surprise. I tell him to go himself because I'm not taking his shit for one more minute. All the while, I'm literally trembling with the knowledge I've walked off the job without another job to go to, and I have a wife and 2 kids to support. Thankfully, the next call I get is from the general sales manager. You know, the guy who recommended I apply for Bob's job, resulting in this whole shitstorm. By now, news of my blow-up evidently made it back to him. He asks me about what happened, and I fill him in and apologize for walking off the job while also telling him there's no way I'm working for Bob. He says, "Yup, leaving work wasn't a good idea. So do me a favor and come back. Email me with the details of what happened and I'll see what I can do." Thanks to my copious note-taking of all my interactions with Bob, it takes me no time at all to send him the complete history of Bob's boobery. So I return, hoping to avoid Bob. Thankfully, his door was closed and I keep my head down in my cubicle. A half hour before quitting time, I notice our general manager and a security guard getting off the elevator together. I stand up to see where they are headed, and I am now elated to see it is directly towards Bob's office. What transpires is even better than the revenge options I was contemplating. Bob emerges from his office carrying a box of his belongings, including the rolled-up Aruba travel poster, and is escorted by the security guard to the escalator. Now standing up in my cubicle, he turns towards me, his face beet red with embarrassment. As our eyes meet, I flash an ear-to-ear grin. The dipshit is gone. That Aruba travel poster thing. How petty is that? Oh my gosh. Be humble, people. Jeez. That's just so rude. Stealing my notes? Guess who won't graduate high school? I first posted in on nuclear revenge, though I think it's not that drastic, so I thought here was more fitting. So this happened in 2018 when I graduated high school. A quick overview of the SUES school system. Normally, you go to school until 9th grade. If you want to go to university later, you can change to grammar school, high school, from 8th to 12th grade. I decided to study and went to high school. Also in Switzerland, my state, Canton, at least, everything under 75% is a fail. We have a really strict thing going on there. There I quickly became friends with Chelsea, my now girlfriend, and Alicia. Alicia is the kind of person that is funny if you don't have her around too much. She is always the victim. She can only talk about herself, etc. But if you spend too much time with her, you are a mess. She is also never responsible for things happening to her because she grew up in a foster care system. Whatever. So this happened about 2 months before our finals. Now, graduating means passing the finals, obviously, but not only them. The finals are half of your eventual grade. The other half is your last report card. If I had an A in my final English exam but a C in my last report card, my eventual grade would be a B, and so on. Alicia really struggled with that because her last report card wasn't that good. She had to excel in most of the subjects to graduate. So you would think she'd write as many notes as possible and study pretty early, right? Nope. She procrastinated until 2 months before our finals when I and Chelsea studied our butts off. Now, I always was the girl who offered her notes in our class group chat in case someone was interested. This gets important later. We had a fairly long list of things we had to be able to use in maths, and I wrote notes for every single topic and kept it in a folder in my locker. Only put some of them on the group chat, just when someone was asking about a certain topic. One day, I went to my locker and they weren't there. I was freaking out. I spent weeks on writing them. I looked for them for an entire week and had approximately 3 panic attacks because I thought I wouldn't pass now, and had to do all of it again. That's when Alicia casually told me that she took them the other day when I asked her to get a book from my locker. She actually hadn't planned to tell me at all because it's not like you need them anyway. You had them long enough. If you didn't make copies, it's not my fault. The blatant entitlement was enough for me to come up with a plan, a vicious plan. Not only had she stolen my notes, if I hadn't bothered her so much with it, she wouldn't have even told me she had taken them. She was only a high school friend anyway, and I knew I'd never do anything with her again once we graduated, so frankly, I didn't give a single crap about what would happen to her. Her entitled, self-centered way was enough for me to finally burst. I apologized for making drama. It's okay, you are just like that sometimes. I was about to lose it, and just continued my school day. Now, Alicia kept calling me about notes, etc., even before that, especially my notes for various books. She'd chosen the same books, so she didn't have to study extra. I started to give her a wrong analysis and started to fake notes. Obvious enough to figure out they were wrong if she'd think herself, but not too obvious. If she'd read the book, she'd know it's bullshit. I did the same with our English books and French. She already had my maths notes, so I couldn't fake those, but I could fake German, French, English, chemistry, physics, and psychology. Now, after I invested so much time in faking notes, I watched it all go down a day before graduation. We went into a pub with our teacher to watch a football game I don't even remember, and she distributed our results. I passed with a 5.38. In Switzerland, the grades are from 1 to 6. 6 is best, so about an A. And Alicia went pale. 3.21. D-. She had failed all her classes but maths and psychology. Oops, it seems she really just read my notes. She didn't read the books she was supposed to read. She didn't read our textbooks. I had to hide a grin. My girlfriend thinks to this day it was cruel, but seriously, it was a damper for her entitlement and narcissism. From what I've heard, she's currently trying to repeat the year and try again, hopefully without stealing her friend's notes. Read your damn emails, Karen. I used to work in an office. What kind of work isn't particularly important to the story, so just picture a basic office job. Every January, HR would send an email to all employees with the employee handbook. This included job descriptions, office policies, etc. Every year since the PDF handbook had been established, it would be named with the year following it to establish it was different than the original in all other years. Any changes would have updated next to the section in the table of contents so you could see what had changed from the previous year and familiarize yourself with anything new. Now, with that background, we will introduce Karen. Karen had been with the company a pretty long time, about 10 years, I believe. She was fine at her job. Just fine. She would get things done, but not without making everyone else miserable in the process. She would ask questions that had already been answered and basically just waste everyone's time for fun. She was just plain nasty to people, and tried as hard as she could to make everyone stay far away from her. The worst thing about her was she always seemed to be looking for a fight or looking for a reason to complain. She had threatened lawsuits a few times over any small thing, but would always just get over it and drop it because she knew no laws had been broken and it would never go anywhere. She'd comment on how she should sue basically every business she ever went to because she could live off the settlement and retire early, over the smallest issues you can imagine. She did her job, and we never had a valid reason to fire her, especially knowing how lawsuit happy she was, so she stayed. Karen's job description, as per the handbook, called for a bachelor's degree. Karen did not have a bachelor's degree, but had been hired prior to that being a requirement, so she was grandfathered in. One day, a position above hers became open. A guy who we'll call Terry had recently completed his master's degree after taking night classes for a few years, and since an internal position is typically better than an outside hire, he was chosen for the promotion. Terry had been at the company about 4.5 years and was well liked and great at his job. The new job required a master's degree in its job description, and him being a recent grad, it was a perfect fit and everyone was happy for him. Everyone but Karen. Since she was constantly looking for something to sue about, she took it as a direct insult that she had not been considered for this promotion that she was not at all qualified for. She immediately cried discrimination and told our boss her lawyer would be in touch. We were all perplexed, since it was very clear that this position required a master's degree, and given that she didn't even have a bachelor's degree, there is no way she could have been hired for the role. What we soon realized was that Karen had saved the original company handbook named Company Handbook, and had not bothered to open or save any new editions that were sent in the following 8 years. She just assumed no changes had been made, and that it was just sent every year to ensure all employees had it. If she was bothered to open the file, she would have seen the sections that say updated in the table of contents. Since Karen cried lawsuit a lot, no one expected much of this, since it was a ridiculous claim. But sure enough, Karen gives her resignation letter via email, and it is scathing about how she can't bear to work in such a discriminatory environment that would only promote men. When any higher-ups try to speak to her about this and clear up the confusion, she basically tells them to fuck off and to read the damn email. I don't owe any more of an explanation. She basically goes full Karen. Not long after, a letter comes in from her lawyer asking for a settlement to avoid a discrimination case. What Karen hadn't realized was that our boss's sister-in-law owned a law firm. She didn't really take on clients herself anymore and mostly just managed the other lawyers of her firm. She was basically semi-retired. What this meant was she had plenty of time to review any letters from Karen's lawyer and advise us. Since Karen didn't bother to read any of the updated handbooks, she was unaware that this position had required a master's degree for many years now. I believe about 6 years. She supplied her lawyer with the original company handbook from 9 years ago, and he used that as a reference in his settlement demand. This was when we realized she hadn't read any new handbooks in years. Since Karen rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, boss's sister-in-law decided to personally take on the case. Every letter Karen's lawyer sent, she sent back one 3 times in length. Some of it wouldn't even really say anything, just wordiness, but it would certainly take Karen's lawyer a while to read it, and he did not come cheap. After several of these letters, they realize no settlement is going to happen. They want to take it to court. It's a pretty cut and dry case. Boss's sister-in-law shows evidence that Karen has received all updates via email. After the change was made and the handbook sent out, HR even sent an email to Karen specifically letting her know that she was grandfathered in and doesn't need to worry. To which Karen replied, "Okay, thank you," confirming receipt of it. The best part was when boss's sister-in-law said they couldn't break company rules to give Karen a job she was totally unqualified for, while neglecting another employee who went above and beyond to get his master's degree to advance, as that would be unfair to all other employees. Karen now had a huge, seriously huge, bill from her lawyer for all of these letters and filing the case, etc. No job, no one she could list as a positive recommendation, and no degree. In the time she had been at the company, it had become an industry standard to require a bachelor's degree, so she was effectively shut out of her career. It would also be hard to explain how you've worked somewhere for a decade and don't have a letter of recommendation from anyone there. If she had only read her damn emails. That last story was definitely my favorite today. Karen for sure deserved that. Oh my goodness, that was satisfying. I love that. Hopefully she can find a role that is better suited to her, like professional retail complainer, or something that all the other Karens do. If your name is Karen and you're a sweet angel, I apologize. I'm not trying to put you in a category. But it's 2020 now, and it has taken on a new name. It has taken on a new definition. So that is it for this video. I hope that you liked it. If you did, be sure to click the thumbs up and subscribe if you care to. It helps me out, and I love to interact with you guys. It has been a crazy 2019, but I am back. I promise. My word. I promised. I also started a Discord. I'm kind of figuring it out still, and I will put the link in the information. If you feel like joining me on any of my social medias, those links will be on the screen somewhere, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!